Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's productivity tools or AutoCAD productivity tools webinar that we have. My name is Rebecca. I'm from the marketing team. And we will actually just go ahead and get started right away. It looks like we do have almost everyone on here. And before we start, I just want to bring your attention to the panel on the right or the left side, wherever you've moved it to, where you can ask questions. And there is a handout in there as well with a brochure for these tools. So I'm going to go ahead and send it over to Jamie now, and we can get started.
Great, thanks, Rebecca. Hi, everybody. I'm Jamie Smith. I'm going to be talking about the productivity tools today. My contact info is right here on the screen that you can see if you need to reach out if you have any questions or anything about anything that I discuss. Half hour, it always feels like it's going to be a long amount of time, and then once I get going, I'm through it before I realize it. So I may go over things kind of quickly. So if you have any questions, just let me know. Email address is jsmith@microcad3d.com if you want to get in touch. Before we get started, I do want to ask a couple poll questions because that always helps me get a good idea of where everyone's coming from and what disciplines you're working in and what brought you here today. So the first question that I'm going to ask is, what interests you in this webinar? So I'm going to launch that poll right now. And we'll give everybody a couple seconds here to answer. Great, so we're getting we got about 50% of the votes in here. Toggling back and forth between each answer, so we'll see where we end up. Great, and it's looking like most people are interested in getting the AutoCAD productivity tool, so that's great. And then those of you, I see there's about 30% of people who do have them already. Maybe that means you haven't had a chance to really take a look at them yet, or you're still trying to figure out what they do and where you think that you might be able to bring them into your work. So that's great. All right, looks like we got everybody voted, so I'm going to go ahead and close this one out. And then, as I mentioned, the next question that I like to ask is, what is your area of discipline? So we'll go ahead and throw that one out there. And of course, this is kind of broad, so don't feel bad if you're, if it doesn't fall in that category. For example, you can just pick other. We can only put so many answers in these, so. Because we actually reach, a lot of our clients are from all over, which is awesome. We get to talk to so many different people from different disciplines. So it looks like a bulk of people are from architecture and interior design backgrounds. And we got a couple mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, and then 45% other. So that's I guess I got to expand these answers, Rebecca. We don't have a lot, we're not covering a lot of ground. So, but great. Okay, so I'll go ahead and close this out, and then we can go ahead and get started. And I'm going to go ahead and turn off my camera because I'm looking in the other direction, obviously, so it just makes it a little bit easier. So I'm going to shut mine off. And all right. So with this presentation, I'm going to go over, of course, the productivity tools. And we're going to discuss some of the following topics that are specifically related to the tools. I'm actually, like I said, this is only a half an hour, so I don't get to go over, as much as I'd like to with these tools. But again, if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me after we're done with the broadcast. So we're going to talk about a couple of selection tools and kind of narrowing down to some kind of comparatively to the QSelect command, which I'll kind of show some of those things and kind of how they compare to existing Autodesk or AutoCAD commands, and then what the tools will provide you a higher level of detail. There's the modify tools, geometry, text, oops, sorry, clicked it too fast, annotation tools, open folder, which just like this copy to clipboard, those sound very simple and straightforward, but they're actually really great tools that I always like to mention. Layout, output, which obviously both of these kind of relate to plotting and printing and doing all those sorts of things. And then some calculation tools that are really great as well to get some pretty easy calculations on your plan, for square footages or whatever the case may be. So let's go ahead and dive into AutoCAD. I'm going to open up my first plan here so that you can get a look at what these actually do. So if you already have these installed on your machine, you may have this tab up here. Maybe you've used it, like I said, maybe you haven't. So the first tool that I'm going to talk about is the selection filter. So this was kind of what I had mentioned before that relates to the QSelect command. So just to show you what QSelect is, if you're not familiar, I'm going to go ahead and type in that command. And QSelect looks like this if you're not, if you've never used it before. But basically what it allows you to do is select objects on your drawing based on different criteria, which is really helpful. There's definitely times when you need to do that. But there's the tool that we have, the selection filter, drills down in a much different way, and it gives us a broader scope of what's happening in our drawing. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that one, selection filter. And it kind of approaches it from the other way. So it shows you all the different objects that you have in your drawing and gives you a count of all of them. As we drill down a little bit further, this is just like a tree, organization system. It tells us where these objects live on which layer. Or what type of object. So up here, I can actually specify different criteria, how I want this to display all the information. But it is really great to just see what's going on in your drawing. And then if you want to select those objects, let's say I wanted to select those arcs, regardless of what layer they were on, I just wanted to know every arc that was in my plan. I could click that checkbox there and it highlights both of those layers for me. I click OK, and then it goes through and finds all the arcs for me in my plan. So I've got some door swings here, and then obviously a lot of the objects on this chair block here have a lot of the arcs from my plan. So it's amazing when you see it kind of written that way, that there's like over 500 arcs in the plan, but it does give you a good perspective of what's happening in your drawing. And again, this is a really small plan, so it's still amazing that you have that much going on. So that's a great feature. And then of course you could do whatever you need to with the selection. If you wanted to move it or copy it or rotate it or do whatever you need to, all those tools still apply to this selection. So the next one that I want to talk about, the next tool I want to talk about is actually on the modify panel up here. And I'm going to navigate over to the right-hand side. And let's say you had an object, and this comes up a lot in various types of plans, but the one that comes to mind for me generally is a landscape plan where you have a lot of more organic angles and sizes and shapes that don't necessarily fall in line with your perfect 90-degree angles. So if I had this angle here, kind of an unknown angle, I mean, I could obviously figure it out, but if I needed to align an object along that angle, I'm just going to grab a rectangle here, I can do that very easily with this align tool. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that. It's asking me to select my object, so I'm going to select the rectangle first. And then it wants me to pick a guideline. And you notice a lot of these commands are always showing up right at the dynamic input line, which is really useful too. You don't necessarily have to pop down into your command line. Everything shows up right at your cursor. So I'm going to click that line there. And I'm going to pick, I mean, you have many different objects, or different areas on the line that you might want to append that to. But I'm going to go ahead and grab this lower left-hand corner. And then if I wanted to actually rotate the object along that angle, I can click this checkbox here. And I love that it shows me a preview, so I know exactly what it's going to look like when I click OK. And then I have my rectangle aligned right at the perfect angle of this line. So just takes a lot of the guesswork out of trying to figure out what that angle is and how to rotate your object to that point. That happens a lot, like I said, in various plans. So I'm assuming everybody could benefit from that command in general. Okay, so the next commands that I want to talk about, which are my favorite, actually some of my favorite of the annotation panel, are these legend creators. So I'm just going to go through I'm going to go into a different plan here. And this one's great, or I'll start with this one actually, the block legend. So what this one does is it creates a legend based on any blocks that you have in your drawing. Now, once I click this, it gives me the ability to select or deselect anything that I want showing up in this legend. I'm just going to keep everything here because we can just see what it does. These are all just different connectors and valves and stuff that it will pull for this hatch legend. I'm sorry, block legend. So once I click OK, it will give me a point to place this. So I have to actually place the legend somewhere. And then it's a pretty good scaled size. It kind of references what the scale of your actual drawing is, which is really nice. And then my favorite part about these is that these are tables. So you have the ability to edit any of the information that you want. If you didn't want it to, just be generic connector 1, you can actually double click inside of here and edit your table just as you would any normal table that you might have created. So just a great way to edit your drawing, add some different details to it. It's really easy compared to what you may be used to if you ever have to create a legend, which is very manual process. So this takes out a lot of the manual work to create a legend. So I love that one. And then I'll just show you the next one, the hatch legend, which I really like this one too. And I'll use it with this little area of hatch work that I have going on. Now this one's a little bit different. It does require a little bit more guess and check. So I'll show you what that entails. So the first thing is you just want to go through and make sure it grabbed all of your hatches that you have available. There's a little preview box, and that's what the to show you what the actual hatch is. So that's what's great about these two columns right here is we have an angle, so you can actually change the angle of the hatch just like you would when you're creating it, and then the scale, which again is just like when you create the hatch. Now the only downside is we don't necessarily, these don't align with what the scale is of when you create these. We don't necessarily know what they're going to look like in the legend, but let's go ahead and create it, and then we can see what it looks like here. So you can see some of these like this, it looks like this angled one is the first one. You can't really make out what that one is. Same with this one here. I'm not sure exactly what that one is. I think it's this, oh no, that'd be the concrete one. Anyway, so you can't, you don't really know exactly what it's going to look like. So what you could do is you can go back into the legend creator, and you can change the scale of it. So if I wanted to, maybe that one angle one is set to 1, and maybe I want to try to make it something, imagine maybe something a little bit smaller would be best. So if I do 0.5 maybe, and see if that one, yeah, that fixed it, made it a little bit more legible so we can actually see what it was. Oh, it's this like tile looking hatch right here. So, you can just kind of mess around with that and see, what looks best. Of course, it might take a little bit of guess and check, but as you can see, it's super easy to create this. It takes seconds. So it's worth it instead of having to do this all manually. And same with the block legend. These are tables, so you can just very easily change out the text in the table and add any information that you want, especially on a hatch legend. You probably would want to edit some of the text here because, again, these are very generic sounding. They don't really make sense to, most people, I'm sure, especially if you're showing this to a client or whatnot, they might not understand what that all means. So just makes that a little bit easier. So I'm going to go ahead and remove those. The next command that I want to show you is the sum of all text. So what this one does is a very quick calculation for you of different text boxes that you have on your plan. And again, these can be either single line or multi-line text. It doesn't matter. It will still recognize that it's a number in a text box, and it will calculate it for us. So if I go ahead and click on that command, I'm just very easily going to go through and click all of those text boxes, enter, and then click to place the sum. And it doesn't show up in the same scale as the other ones, but at least you get that number, which is really nice. Again, if you had a space where you were doing a bunch of calculations of square footage, different, anything that you had to calculate a lot of information, this is a super easy way to do that. Otherwise, I don't know about you guys, I'd probably just have to whip out a calculator and figure out exactly what's going on with all these dimensions. You'd have to, calculations, you'd have to go through and do it all manually. So that takes out a lot of the work with that, which I really love. I'm gonna just remove that. And then the last thing that I want to show with pertaining to actual drawings and stuff is this create viewport. So this one's really interesting because when we create viewports, we know we come into layout space and we create the viewport that way. Paper space. We know that that's generally what we do when we first want to start setting up our drawings to plot, right? Well, what this one does is it actually allows us to create a viewport from model space. And it just takes the guesswork out of adding in a new viewport into paper space and not knowing where in your model space it's going to actually show up. It's a very random process. So when you do it this way, it actually lets you select more accurately how your viewport's going to look once it converts it over to paper space. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Create Viewport. And and to ask you, the margins, I'm just going to keep it all at 0 for now. You can tell it which layout you want it to go on, which is really nice too. And then for standard scale, you would just set the scale of what you want that to be. I'm going to make this a lot larger just so that it is a little bit more visible and gives me a little bit more control over what I'm going to be selecting. So I'm going to do 1 inch equals a foot. My drawing is really small, so I think that's also probably why as well. And then this I love is it will default locking the viewport for you. So that's one less thing that you have to worry about. I know on multiple occasions I've not had my viewports locked and you think you're, zooming in and out of paper space, but you're actually in your viewport. So that's really nice. It kind of takes that, that bad habit that I think some of us do out of the equation, so you don't have to think about it anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And see, I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you can see this box. So this box is created based on the scale that I specified for my drawing. And now I'm just going to go ahead and click in this area. And then I think actually I had my other viewport's there behind it. So I might just want to delete that so it looks a little bit clearer. But that's the viewport that I added. It just defaults it to, the right size that I needed and all of that. So it's just really a nice, convenient way to get your viewport right onto your paper space very quick and easily. And you know exactly what it's going to look like. So again, this is a little bit, smaller of a floor plan. If I actually had a real floor plan here that was drawn at a different scale, it probably would look a little bit clearer, but that is how that one works. Okay. And then of course you can do some output controls as well. This allows you to send information out to a Excel spreadsheet if you have it, or any other type of data type software, depending on what you're using. Excel is obviously the more commonly used, but you never know. Sometimes people use other versions of things. I think there's one called Cells or something like that, but it would export to a lot of different features for you. Now, the next tools that I want to talk about are these copy to clipboard and open folder tools. So the first one here, again, these probably sound really like lame and boring, and you're like, what are these? What could these be that are different from your regular clipboard or open to folder? Well, these pertain directly to the files actually, so they don't actually have much to do with what's happening in the drawing. So if I go ahead and click on folder, kind of feels like nothing happened, but down here in the command line it says copy drawing folder. So this is telling me exactly where this lives on my computer. So if I wasn't sure where this drawing was coming from, maybe on a server, or maybe you had the file emailed to you and you just opened it directly from the email, that file actually gets sent to a random temporary folder on your local drive. So if you, for some reason, say you open the file and you just get ready and you just start working, this kind of mitigates you from ever losing that file entirely. So if I go ahead and open up my file explorer here, that copied that to my clipboard. So now if I wanted to find it, I would just do a Control V really quickly to paste that address in, and then hit enter, and it brings me right to the folder of where this file is. It's that one right there. So just another easy way to navigate through files. And we always have multiple file types, especially when it comes to external references. It's very easy to lose track of where those might be located. So this is super handy for that. Same with the file. This one actually will save the full file name along with it. So, but it would just function in the same way. You could clip it, copy it to your clipboard, and then you could open it up in the File Explorer, and then it would do the same thing. And the next options here are the open folder. So this one's similar as well. So this one will actually open up a folder that the drawing is living in. So if I click on the DWG one, this is bringing me right back to that same folder, obviously, because that's where this drawing lives. And again, that's super helpful for XREFs. I can't stress that enough, because when you lose those, or if they're in another folder, which in most cases they shouldn't be, but that happens occasionally where you need to have your XREFs pulled from other templates or something like that, that might be in different locations on your server. This is really useful for that. And then these two buttons here, these actually open up exactly what they say, the My Documents folder and then the desktop folder. I won't bore you with what those ones are. And unfortunately, I've been asking this a lot because I get this question a lot, so I'm just going to throw this out here. A lot of people ask if these can be modified to, what locations you want them to be. And unfortunately, that is not the case yet, but we are working on it because I've been asked it so many times. I actually sent this to our team that we co-developed this with to ask if we can add that. So, because I think a lot of people would like to have this go to different places other than just the My Documents or the desktop folder. So, so that's in the works. Hopefully within later releases, that will be part of the tools. But as of right now, it is not. So, and that is pretty much all I have. I want to make sure that we have enough time for any questions. And anything else that anybody wants to mention about the tools, or anything like that. So Rebecca, did we get any questions while I was presenting?
Yes, actually, we do have a couple of them. Let me just take a quick look. Okay, so I think earlier on you were going through the block legend. So we have a question. Is the block legend offering only what is visible or all the blocks in the drawing?
That is a great question. It will do everything in the drawing, and I'll show you that really quick, actually. So if I open up that block legend again, I don't think I have any blocks in here. Oh yeah, this is the same drawing. This is everything. So I have everything in view, and it's showing me all of them. And then I can just actually very easily uncheck what I don't want to show on that legend. So great question.
Awesome. Okay, the next one we have, is it possible to adjust the size of the hatching perimeter in the legend, or are they always those small squares?
That's a good question too. I don't believe that you can adjust them. I think that is what it is as far as the scaling. Although actually, while we are on it, I could try that very easily. I might be able to just scale the whole thing. Let's see if it lets me do that. Oh yeah, it does scale up. So yeah, great question. And I just learned something too. So thanks for asking that.
Awesome. Okay, let's see what else we have here. The next question is, if there is non-numeric text in the entity, will the sum tool still work?
That is another good question that I do not know the answer to, so I will test it right now. I'm learning so much. Okay, I'm just gonna add the word text in there. Let's see what it does. And that was the sum of all text. Let's see if we still get the same answer here. Yes, it does. So it recognizes whatever text is in there. So I'd imagine if you got too crazy with it, like maybe you had a numeric value text and then another number, I imagine it might get kind of funny, but at least you can't do it when there's just text separated from numbers separated from letters. So yeah, but great question.
Perfect. All right, so this is the last one that we have. So if anyone else has any, please throw them into the question section now so we can get that answered for you. But the last one that I see here for now, where is the Viewport Scale list coming from? Is it possibly from CanoScale?
I would not know the answer to that, unfortunately. I think it aligns with the same scales if you were to go into a viewport in here and look at the same scale list that's available for your actual viewports. I believe it aligns with that. So hopefully that answers the question. Sorry if that's not a great example, but I'm not entirely sure.
Okay, yeah, I think that answered. We're getting a thank you. All right, so I'm just going to take a look. If you guys do have any other questions about this, please feel free to send them in now. You can also send it through the chat. We are getting a question, what is the cost? So these, I'm trying to remember the exact amount. They should be available if you have a support contract, but we definitely suggest getting in touch with your MicroCAD representative to see if you already have that and to confirm your cost. It is different if you have a 1-year contract versus a 3-year contract. I would definitely suggest getting in touch with your MicroCAD representative. If you're not sure who that is, you can email either myself or Jamie. We can put you in touch with them. But that's definitely something they can help you out with. And if you don't have it, if you're looking for a quote, they can get that out to you pretty quickly too. So if there's any other questions, feel free to send those through. Just a reminder, there is that handout if you'd like to download that. It's the brochure for these tools. And we do have tools for Revit and Civil 3D as well. If there's any interest in that, or if you guys know of anyone who would be interested. And we do present on these every month, every 6 weeks, for anyone who gets them, doesn't know what they are, or is interested. So I think that is, oh, we do have one last question. Oh, Civil 3D tools would be interesting, yes.
Yes.
We do have one coming up for Civil 3D, the beginning mid-March.
So we can pull those up actually, Rebecca, just so we can show we can show what events we have going on here. So.
Oh yes, perfect. So that one is not officially up just yet, but it should be in like the next week or so. But we do have 2 more webinars this month. On Wednesday, the 24th, we have one for Revit materials. Perfect, right there. And then on Friday, we have one for Bluebeam, review extreme scaling a PDF. So both of them should be full of information. And please feel free to register. Even if you can't make it, we usually do have the recordings available pretty soon after. But that is what we have for the rest of this month. If you happen to miss any previous ones, we do have those on YouTube, and those 2 actually that on demand, if you hit register, it'll take you right to that video. So that is what we have. I don't see any other questions, but you can definitely email them over to us. I think that is all that we have for today.
Yeah. Great. All right. Well, thank you all so much for coming. Really appreciate it. And again, don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions that come up later. And I hope everybody has a great weekend. And if you're in New England, stay safe because we're getting a lot of snow. So hopefully everyone stays safe and warm at home. All right. Have a great weekend. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.